Hello and welcome back to another FPL team selection video. Today we are going to take a look at my transfer plans as always, my bench plans and my general team selection for game week 10. But first we're taking a look at our points for game week 9. Now if you enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like, make sure to subscribe as well if you are new, because we've got lots of FPL stuff every single week, as well as UCL Fantasy if you also play that game. Now looking at game week 9, we got 64 points, which I believe is exactly what I got in game week 8 as well, and we've managed to get ourselves a little bit of a green arrow this week. We were 1.4 million last week. We are 1.3 million now, which is quite unfortunate. Like I'm happy with my green arrow of course, but I think on like Saturday night I was sitting about 700k in the world, which was great. The only things that ended up killing me was obviously Salah and Saka both doing really nicely. It obviously hurts a little bit more that we took Saka out for Son this week, so that was quite unfortunate, but it is what it is. You know, we've still managed a green arrow, still pushing to try get that the top 1 million. Obviously made 4 transfers last week as well, a bit of a mini overhaul, and it was a bit of a mixed bag for those transfers themselves. Obviously we took out Gabriel and brought in Ryan Aitnouri. Aitnouri obviously scored and got a 6-pointer, which was brilliant if I had played him. Obviously I had him second on the bench. If I'd had him first on the bench, he would have came on for the non-playing Son, but unfortunately we had Trent on the bench who ended up with a 1-pointer. But it's good to know for the future that Aitnouri is definitely an option that can play. He will probably be in my team for this week, but second on the bench, unfortunately having to bench a 6-pointer, which I think is 2 or 3 weeks in a row now that we have benched a return, which is quite unfortunate, but it is what happens when you are obviously playing with a full 15, well a full 14 excluding my second goalkeeper. But we also brought in Jimenez for Calvert-Lewin. Both of them picked up 2 points, so nothing really there, and I'm much more comfortable keeping Jimenez for the future, expecting him to do well against Brentford this week. If you've already watched our captaincy video from this week, I've got Jimenez down as our differential captain of the week. We also brought in Palmer for Luis Diaz. Diaz obviously ended up picking up an assist. Palmer did outscore him though with a 10-pointer, and again more than happy to keep Palmer over the next few games. So again, Palmer, one of the most essential players I think right now. He's got Man United this week, which maybe could be more of a difficult game for him, but I still think he's more than capable of doing well in that one. And then of course we done the Saka to Son transfer, which didn't really work out. So in terms of like the general idea of how the transfers went on, obviously Palmer was really the only successful one. Aitnouri done well, but he was benched, so it doesn't really make too much of a difference. But still 64 points with a nice green arrow. Let's see what the team's looking like for game week 10. So the defence is looking a little bit spicy this week. We have all home fixtures for everyone except for Flecken in goals, so still a decent fixture for him. You know, Flecken's just kind of there to pick up saves and potentially the odd clean sheet. But in defence is really where we're hoping to pick up some points. You know, I think it's been a long time since we got a good run of defensive points. You know, we just seen it there. I don't think we get anyone apart from Lewis above 2 points last week, so hoping that can change this week. We've got home fixtures against decent enough opponents. So Trent has Brighton at home, maybe not a clean sheet in there, but hoping that he can finally get an attack and return. It's been a good few weeks since that. The same with Porro, Aston Villa. Probably not going to keep a clean sheet, but again, he is very attacking, one of the most attacking players or one of the most attacking defenders. We've also got Aitnouri and we've got Alex Moreno in there, both with very favourable fixtures. We've got Crystal Palace at home and West Ham at home. Now we've benched Rico Lewis for this week. I will speak more about that on our bench dilemma when the full team is shown, so make sure to keep an eye on that one as to why I've done that. But expecting Moreno to do quite well, decent odds for a clean sheet. Forrest are obviously pretty solid defensively, and Moreno has actually locked down that left back spot, which is obviously very nice and comfortable enough to play him. I think that's 3 weeks in a row now that Moreno's making the start 11, so happy enough with the way he's doing things. In midfield, it's pretty straightforward. Palmer's starting, Son's starting, and Mbeumo's starting. 3 very capable midfielders of doing well and picking up big hauls. Mbeumo hoping to repeat last week with his 15-pointer. Hopefully he can do the same against Fulham. We've got Son and Palmer, obviously 2 big premiums who we are hoping can do quite well. Now Son was rested in the FA Cup, in the EFL Cup, sorry. So hoping he's fit. They play on Sunday, so he gets that extra day over everyone else. I'm expecting him to be able to play. today. Once again though, if he doesn't, we've got Morgan Rogers off the bench, and again we'll speak more about that benching towards the end of the video. Then of course Cole Palmer, a potential captaincy pick if you really wanted to go there. Did speak about it in the captaincy video, so it is always an option, but there is some potential that will stick the vice on him, because he does look like he still could do quite well this week. Obviously a new manager bounce potentially for Man United by the time the weekend comes round. It looks more and more likely that Amarin is going to come in the door before the round of games this weekend, so we'll see what happens with Cole Palmer. But for me, I think it's just a little bit too risky with it being an away fixture, and obviously a potential new manager bounce for Man United to stick the captaincy on him. Obviously with Semenyo, it's, fairly straightforward with benching him. Manchester City, I think he's actually been third on the bench for 2 or 3 weeks in a row now. He's still 5.6 million, which is nice. I think he's only dropped 0.1 since I've started benching him, but his favourable fixtures are once again starting to come into it in the next couple of weeks, so he'll probably be making the squad a little bit more as the weeks go on. And then up front, this is where it starts to look a little bit interesting. You notice that captaincy armband is on Jimenez this week. Obviously, if you've watched the captaincy video, I definitely recommend that you go and do so. I've picked Jimenez as my differential captain for this week. Now, the only way this will change is if we get confirmation that Kevin De Bruyne's starting. I think I'd be definitely a lot more inclined to go for Haaland if De Bruyne is playing, because Haaland just plays a lot better when De Bruyne's on the pitch. If not, sticking on Raul Jimenez. It can wait all the way till Monday for that game. And again, like I said in the captaincy video, Brentford have one of the weakest defences in the league so far, and chances conceded down the middle is very favourable for Jimenez. So I think it's a good week for a differential captain. A lot of your main hitters, Son, Palmer, Haaland, either have tough away fixtures or just tough fixtures in general. Again, if we're talking about Son, who is also a bit of an X minutes risk as well. So happy to stick it on someone who has a little bit more of a differential. Again, he's very lowly owned as well. I think Jimenez is only about 4 or 5% owned. So as a captaincy, if he can do well, that would be absolutely brilliant. And he is definitely capable of getting 2 or 3 goals. Obviously, we've got Chris Wood in there as well. West Ham at home, expecting him to do hopefully a repeat of what he got against Leicester in Gameweek 9 with the double, and we can have a full, hopefully, forward line of players doing well. So quite happy with the way the team's looking. Let's take a look at the bench quickly. So obviously we had 3 players potentially making the starting 11. That was going to be Moreno, Rico Lewis and Morgan Rogers. Now you would have obviously seen already that Moreno is in the starting 11, and these are the stats that I'm really taking a look at. Now obviously for Rogers being a more attacking player, we're looking at his odds of scoring. For the defenders, it's obviously the clean sheet odds that we really want to have a look at. Now Rogers only has a 21% chance of scoring this week, which is fairly low. Not really expecting him to get anything. Obviously Spurs away is still a pretty tough fixture. So we're looking at the defenders, Enrico Lewis and Alex Moreno. Now Lewis, obviously playing for Manchester City, has the slightly higher clean sheet odds chances. Now Moreno still a very nice pick, still at 32%. It's not a huge gap between them. But then when we look a little bit lower, the return chances is where Moreno takes it over the 3, and also the predicted points. He is joint with Rogers on that, but Moreno's got higher predicted points than Rico Lewis is, and he has a higher return chance than Rico Lewis has. And I think the home fixture is where I'm kind of more swayed. If obviously Lewis was playing at home against Bournemouth, he would probably be in the team. There's also the chance of rotation with Rico Lewis. He's basically played every single game in the last couple of weeks, and obviously they have Champions League on Tuesday, so I don't really want to risk that. And I think Moreno has a more than good enough fixture for him to do well. Obviously looking at the chances conceded, it doesn't really matter too much for our defenders. West Ham 25 down the left side, Rico Lewis it's 23 down the right hand side for where he plays, so nothing really to keep in mind for that. Spurs have only conceded 42 down the middle, which isn't that much in the grand scheme of things for where obviously Rogers plays. So for me, I think Alex Moreno is a really nice pick for this week. So I've decided to opt for him over Rico Lewis in the hopes that Lewis potentially gets benched. So he's going to be second in the bench this week because Rodgers obviously trumps Lewis a little bit as well with the expected minutes, with the predicted points, the chances conceded, and stuff like that as well. So that's how it looks for this week. Hopefully we can again make it into the top 1 million. Hopefully that differential captain is what pays it off for us. We're trying to build our transfers up over the next few weeks up to game week 12, where I'm probably going to end up taking Erling Haaland out and then bringing in the likes of Saka, potentially Salah. We'll see. I think his fixtures do get a little bit tough in game week 12, so potentially just looking to bring in the likes of, you know, Saka and Gabriel again in game week 12, and maybe free up some budget with Haaland, who has a pretty tough run all the way up until about game week 20. So that's the plans for this week. Again, like I said at the start, make sure to like if you enjoyed and subscribe if you want to see more of this. If you haven't watched the captaincy video already, make sure to go and have a look at that on my channel. It will just be below my face somewhere, one of these two videos. Make sure you go and click on one of them. And again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.